afternoon, everybody. I am Bert Eiler, and I'm here with my co-host Jim Fotis, and this is the PODC Hill Report. How you doing, Jim?
I'm doing great, Bert. You're looking very good today, and
Why,
I'm
thank
very
you.
excited
So
to do the Hill Report. I know you've been up on the Hill this week, and why don't you give us a synopsis of what you did?
Yeah, well, a great time up on Tuesday on the House side. We had 5 great meetings. All the staff members were very responsive to all our legislation. Obviously, the main one we talked about was HR 503, qualified immunity. That was a primary reason why we were up there, to get their support for that. Which, hopefully this session we can get it passed. If not, like everything else, we'll just move it into the 120th session. But a lot of the bills are getting support. It's a slow moving process. I think moving forward, we're going to have to start looking at the committees, looking at the committee members, the committee chairs, and getting back into their offices to say, hey, where are we? Because right now, all the bills are in committee. We just don't know when they'll be marked up. Being that this is an election year, right now they're on holiday break for the 4th of July. They'll come back. They'll have 2 weeks at the end of July. Then they go on break of all of August due to an election year. Come back for September, October, they're out again. And, now we're looking at election, which is November, and then Thanksgiving, December. So right now we're on a crunch time. I think there's a few bills that have potential, but I don't have a crystal ball, Jim. If I had a crystal ball to be able to find out what these committees are going to mark up and vote on, you know what? I'd be a miracle worker. But it's a slow process.
You have been working miracles, Bert, just getting Democrats and Republicans together on legislation that we've put together. I think you've done an incredible job in the last 3 years working on this legislation, and possibly next year, if qualified immunity doesn't work, maybe we can bring some police officers that have been injured due to loss of qualified immunity up on the Hill and let them explain why we need qualified immunity.
Yeah, I agree with you, and we'll just keep fighting. One thing I just want to get going with a lot of activity up on the Supreme Court. There's quite a few decisions that have been brought down before the summer. Can you kind of fill everybody in on some of those cases?
I will try to do my best. I'll give the first one, which I think is very important. The Supreme Court came down on having identification on voting, and basically, I guess we're waiting for the Save America Act to pass, which hasn't passed. But the Supreme Court came down on mail-in ballots, and they said they're going to follow the Mississippi mail-in ballot rule. And the Mississippi mail-in ballot rule allows mail-in ballots to be counted 5 days after the voting day, which I don't think is a very strong decision. It's probably a wrong decision. Why would you mail your ballot in on the day of the vote? It doesn't do what President wanted, and I don't think it does what the Congress wanted. I don't believe it does what conservative wanted.
Wow. I mean, that's crazy. We know how much the snail mail, how accurate that is to get mail to where it needs to go. So
exactly,
that's going to be a little interesting one. I know law enforcement side, and I think we talked about this a little bit last episode, was the Hawaii case. Did you follow that at all? Dealing with
the Hawaii case was that basically there was a court challenge in Hawaii. It went up to the Supreme Court in Hawaii, basically saying individual was not allowed to carry their firearm to any places that were open to the public in Hawaii, which was a devastating case, which would affect every state that had concealed carry or any type of carry in the country. Went to the Supreme Court, and this was a very strong ruling. Basically, the Supreme Court came down and said this follows the New York ruling that the reason for The Second Amendment is for personal protection. And if you limit people from going into any property that's open to the public, you're stopping them from having personal protection. And they rule against that case. They rule against the Hawaiian Supreme Court. And you are allowed to carry your firearm into any public place. Now, there may be some limitations on places that serve alcohol, but that was not addressed in the bill, was not addressed in the New York bill. And I think it definitely basically supports what happened in New York, and it supports all of our gun owners across the country that we carry for self-protection and we carry for self-defense and to protect our families. Therefore, it's a great conclusion by the Supreme Court.
That's awesome. That's great to hear. Looks like we got a pretty big win on that one.
So, we did. We got a very big win. We also got a good win, could have been a little stronger, on transsexuals in women's sports. Supreme Court came down and said there are 27 states that have laws that say that transsexuals or people that identify, you don't even have to have any type of operation or anything like that, as a woman participating in women's sports are not allowed to be in women's sports. Again, kind of throwing it back to the states. We have another 23 states that do not have laws stating that. Therefore, if they make laws, a lot of these are blue states, which probably won't. California does not have a law. They allow transsexuals or people that identify as women to participate in women's sports. Unfair, very, very unfair to women that have worked so hard and girls that have worked so hard to do well in their sports. And we're hoping that a lot of these states do pass laws to stop anybody who identifies as a woman from participating in women's sports. It's unfair. Men who can't make it in men's sports go into women's sports and try and disqualify them. Supreme Court could have made it a little stronger, but at least we've got something, and maybe it'll move forward. And I think it's something that should be addressed again.
Well, yeah. Yeah, I agree with you there. And the sad thing is that it has to be ruled on by the U.S. Supreme Court on biological men playing in women's sports. It's mind-boggling, but it's a good start. At least now, all these young ladies can start playing sports and not worry about males coming in. I mean, really, you're either male or you're female. That's
exactly. It's biological. It's not psychological.
Right. So, well, thank you for those updates. Jim, one more question I have on current events is, I know you've been following quite a bit on the whole Iran war. Do you have any updates for everybody on that one?
Well, Bert, as you know, they violated the 60-day memorandum a couple of times, but President Trump has decided not to slap their hand or anything. We did sink a couple of their tiny boats, but other than that, we have not done anything severe. But an interesting tidbit, oil is definitely down. Barrels of oil were down in the low 60s, probably going to hit possibly today, last day, I believe the market's going to be open, maybe 60 or below. So gasoline is coming down. But interesting tidbit is 100 miles off of the Gulf Coast, there's a spot, it's called Progolene, and it has hundreds of billions of gallons of oil beneath the shale that's there. But we've never been able to drill on it because there is 20,000 pounds of pressure per square inch. That's like an elephant sitting on a quarter, and they can't drill because it would blow everything up. However, our scientists at not only BP and Chevron have come up with a system that can get into that shale without it blowing, and they are starting to go in. And that means that we will have so much oil to supply not only the United States, but every country in the world, probably forever. It is just the most oil-rich spot ever drilled.
Wow, that's crazy. Well, let's
It's
hope we can get it
amazing.
done.
It
Let's
just
hope we can
shows
get it
you
done.
in 250 years how we have become the most powerful, most abundantly wealthy country in the world.
Well,
U.S.
we'll
technology.
just have to keep on moving. So
That's right.
that's some great information on our current events. I would like to bring everybody's attention to one of our bills that is getting some steam, which is HR 1551 and S167 Protect and Serve Act. This bill establishes a new criminal offense for knowingly assaulting a law enforcement officer and causing serious bodily injury in circumstances that affect interstate commerce. And what that's really trying to do is it's intended to strengthen protection of law enforcement officers. So what this bill is intended is to strengthen protections for law enforcement officers by providing additional federal enforcement options for the most serious targeted acts of violence while leaving routine assaults to state criminal justice systems. So I think this will be a really good addition to laws, state and local, including federal, kind of brings both sides together and gets out there that, hey, you assault our law enforcement nationwide, there's going to be a severe penalty. So I think this is something that is really, really going to be helpful if we can get this passed, which I believe we can. We're getting some really good support on that.
That's good, Bert. I think it's a great bill. I would like it if it was a little stronger, that the state didn't have to bring it to the feds, that the departments could bring it to the feds, but whatever we can get, we'll take.
Yeah, and this is sponsored by Senator Tillis and Congressman Rutherford. So both senior representatives up on the Hill. So I think this will hopefully get through.
And both on the law enforcement caucus, correct?
Yeah. Yes. So we'll see what happens. We'll keep moving forward, Jim. And now that we're coming to an end of our podcast, I know this is, we've talked about this before. This is the 250th anniversary of America. And I know I'd like to ask you, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I'm proud of America. I really believe in America, as everyone who is an American and a patriot should. And I'd like to just read a little snippet that was at the end of the document at the signing of when the Statue of Liberty was put in, which was given to us by our friends from France, who at times we wonder if they are still our friends. But this little snippet can pertain to those socialist candidates that are running today and don't believe in America as it should be. And I think that this should tell them what America is. There is room in America and brotherhood, after all, who will support the institution and aid in our development. But those who deliberately try to destroy our peace and disturbance in our community and are not our allies, are now our enemies.
That's pretty powerful, Jim.
I thought it was very powerful. And I think those people that are running for office and are considering themselves socialists and communists and are actually coming out and saying that they don't like America, everybody who votes for them should look around the world and see where communism and socialism has survived. Look at China, look at the USSR. Even though it's changed, it's still the same. One man who continually kills his opponents. And look at the rest of the world where socialism takes over. We need to continue to be a capitalist and a country that our forefathers put together. The only document in the world that's like it, the Constitution of the United States, and continue to believe in it.
Well said, Jim. Well said. I'm Bert Eiler. This is PODC Hill Report, where we bring the Hill to you. Till next time, God bless.
God bless, and God bless America.